You might think that writing persuasively is about using promotional language and selling your work, but persuasive writing is not about promotional words like novel, innovative, or cutting edge. It's about supporting your writing with 3 pillars of persuasion. And in this video, I'm going to share what these pillars are, what you can do to build them in your writing, and what is the foundation that underlies everything you need to consider for persuasive writing. And if we haven't met, hello, my name is Crystal Heron. I'm a trained biomedical scientist turned clinical researcher and now scientific and medical editor. And since 2011, I've helped clinicians, scientists, and medical writers write with clarity and confidence. Now let's get to the important things to consider for persuasive writing. Before sharing the 3 pillars, I want to take a moment to talk about promotional language. So in 2024, researchers published a study in which they correlated promotional language with a higher probability that a grant would be funded and even lead to manuscripts with a higher citation impact. Now, that data might sound pretty convincing, but it's important to keep in mind that this finding is an association and not causation. And the authors even said that the algorithm they used cannot capture all the nuances in the language, and that the promotional words really are a proxy for how people might respond to the writing. So this study is interesting, but not as significant as you might think. And in case you want to check out the paper, I'll add a link to the description box. So another important thing to keep in mind is that there are risks when using promotional language. And the biggest risk is creating hype that undermines scientific reporting and can even misreport or misrepresent information. And that can erode your credibility and trust in science. Also, some journals have highlighted that promotional language, like the word novel, is overused and tends not to add meaning. And even in the study I mentioned, the author said that scientific ideas should be evaluated for their merit and not how they are linguistically packaged. Although I think that both aspects are important. Both the science and how you write about that science are important for persuasion. And when you use promotional language, you are just papering over the cracks in the writing, which is messy and ugly. But by focusing on all 3 pillars of persuasive writing, you can build a strong grant, manuscript, or other document with far more persuasive power than promotional words. So let's get to the 3 pillars. The first 2 you're likely already familiar with, but the third one might surprise you. The 3 pillars are the foundation of rhetoric, which is the art of effective or persuasive writing that engages, informs, and motivates readers. And this art is rooted in theories by Aristotle, who was a philosopher and polymath in the 4th century BCE. Now, the first of these pillars is ethos. And ethos is how you persuade through character. In other words, ethos is about showing your credibility as a researcher or writer, which builds trust with your readers. And this trust is a foundation of persuasion. So how do you show credibility and build trust through your scientific and medical writing? You base your ideas on previous work, whether it's your own work or the reputable work of others. You cite sources to credit published work, or you present clear data and methods to showcase unpublished work. You also use sound methods for your research that are robust, replicable, and produce quality data. You also use appropriate statistics to analyze that data. And you draw credible interpretations and conclusions by not making overstatements or false claims. And all these things are just some of the ways that you can show credibility in your writing. And these things will show rather than tell your credibility, which will build and maintain trust with your readers. The second pillar is logos. Logos is how you persuade through the argument or the logic behind aspects of your project, whether you're writing a manuscript, a grant, or other type of document. And many researchers and writers put the most focus on this aspect of persuasion, but all three aspects of persuasion are important. So, how do you build a persuasive argument? You craft a clear and logical story or narrative for your readers. Your story focuses on a specific central message. You walk your readers through your rationale for doing the work and explain how you arrived at your interpretations and conclusions. You create flow and you use parallelism and patterns to help readers connect your ideas. And you guide readers through the logic in the story in a way that they actually reach the conclusion of your argument before you even reveal it. And all these things are just some of the ways that you can guide readers through your logic. And when you guide them well and smoothly, they can understand your reasoning and perspective, and they are more likely to be persuaded. Now, the third pillar might surprise you. The third pillar is pathos, or how you persuade through emotions. I've noticed that many authors in the sciences are surprised by this one because they think that scientific and medical research should be emotionless or objective. But this pillar is crucial. This pillar taps into your readers' emotions, beliefs, values, and imagination. And when you can tap into these things, you have an incredible tool for persuasion. So, how do you tap into your readers' emotions? Think about what your readers care about. Are your readers expert researchers in your field? Tap into their curiosity and excitement about discoveries in the field. Are your readers clinicians who are continuing their medical education? Tap into their desire to explore challenges and solve problems. Are your readers patients who have just been diagnosed with a condition? Tap into their fears and alleviate their concerns. Now, this might sound easier than it really is, especially in scientific and medical writing that is heavily influenced by what I would argue are outdated conventions that drain the energy from your writing. For example, weak verbs, unnecessary nominalizations, and passive voice drain the energy and emotion from your writing. And rather than address those issues, a lot of authors rely on promotional language, which we talked about earlier. But promotional language sparks little bursts of emotion rather than infusing the entire document with a foundation of emotional elements that take readers on a journey like reading a story. So rather than peppering your writing with promotional words, infuse your writing with language that sparks emotions. Now, if you want to know more about how to do that, you might want to check out my Scientific Writing Simplified course. In that course, you'll learn about strong verbs, avoiding unnecessary nominalizations, and using active and passive voice strategically, along with many other elements that support persuasion. And when you enroll, you'll also join a community of clinicians, scientists, and medical writers in the Redwood Ink Academy. And in the Academy, we have all sorts of ongoing events, discussion forums, and challenges to sharpen your writing skills. I'll add a link to the description box in case you want to check it out. Now that you know the three pillars of persuasion, ethos, logos, and pathos, what is the foundation that creates a solid ground for these pillars to stand on? The foundation is knowing your readers. To support the three pillars of persuasion, you need to understand your readers' interests, beliefs, emotions, and expectations. And you need to tap into those facets and build on them in a way that showcases your credibility, builds a logical argument, and taps into emotions. And when you do this well, you can truly harness the power of persuasion in your writing. So, how do you get to know your readers? If you're writing a grant, contact the program officer to find out who might be on the study section. If you're writing a manuscript, look at the journal's readership to get a sense of who is most likely to read your paper. And if that readership is beyond experts in your field, then find people outside of your field to give you feedback on your writing. I would actually recommend doing that anyway because it can help to expand the reach of your work. And this is also one of the many great reasons to work with a professional editor who can look at your writing with the reader in mind. Because an editor's goals are not only to make your writing and you look good, but also to advocate for readers and what they need and want. And so they can help you create a strong foundation to support the 3 pillars of persuasion. So the 3 pillars of persuasion are ethos, logos, and pathos. And these pillars are supported by a foundation of knowing who your readers are and what they need and want. And if you want to know more about how to build this foundation and these 3 pillars, I hope you'll check out my Scientific Writing Simplified course. I would be delighted to support you in learning how to make your writing more persuasive, clear, and concise. And if you found this video helpful, you might also be looking to build more confidence in your writing. So at the end of this video, I'll add a link to another video in which I talk about ways you can build more confidence in your writing. And if there's something in particular that you'd like to learn more about, let me know in the comments. I create these videos for you, so I want to make sure that I'm creating something that you will find valuable. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you in the next video.